Hey there guys, today we're taking a look at Call of Duty Warzone 2 running on the AMD Ryzen 5 5600H running on the Beelink SER5 mini PC. Now you're looking at the game right now running with the lowest in-game graphics preset, and we are using FSR set to the performance mode, and we do have dynamic resolution scaling enabled with a target FPS of 60, and this was pretty much the only way to really get a consistent experience here. But as you can see, the 1% lows are still struggling a little, but they are at least staying at a 30 FPS range. So it isn't completely unplayable, though this isn't exactly the greatest experience that you would hope for in a Call of Duty game. That being said though, it was still playable and I was at least able to get some kills in the game and do pretty decently, but we do have to do a lot to actually get this to be at a playable range. FSR at the performance preset really does aggressively reduce the resolution, and it does actually make playing the game very difficult when you're trying to get into some long-range engagements. So while I can definitely describe this experience as playable, it's certainly not the most ideal situation, and I think that the vast majority of people that are looking to play a game like this would more than likely rather play with much higher clarity than this, because it does make long-range engagements pretty brutal. In close quarters, it's perfectly fine, but at long range, the lower resolution really does struggle to produce a consistent image, and I think that most people would really just find it difficult to enjoy a competitive game like this on here like this. And unfortunately, this is about as good as it gets. You can of course disable FSR and just go with the dynamic resolution scaling, and you might find that to look clearer in certain scenarios, but it still ends up falling into the same problem where it has to reduce the resolution by a significant margin, and so you end up in the same scenario where long-range engagements are still struggling. And the reason being is that at a distance, a lower resolution is just going to look bad in general. So I would really only describe this game as playable if this is exactly the type of game that you're looking to play, and no other type of shooter is going to end up filling this niche for you. Call of Duty certainly does have a gameplay loop and gunplay that a lot of other games have really never been able to properly replicate. So I can totally understand if this is your type of game and you're really desperate to play, and in that scenario, you could get away with it, but just don't expect to ever really become happy with how this plays at long-range engagements. Perhaps you could adjust to it, but I was really struggling to identify enemies at a distance. In terms of all the other battle royales on the market, this is one of the ones that really is on the heavier side. It might actually be the heaviest, most demanding one, at least on this specific system. We of course do still need to take a look at Apex Legends to see how that one plays out, because Apex Legends was a surprisingly demanding game, at least on the other APUs. But as it stands, if you're really looking for a battle royale to play, I would say that you're probably better off playing something like Fortnite. But if you're really desperate for it, you can get away with playing like this. It's just one of those things where things are really going to struggle. I mean, you can see the 1% lows aren't exactly fantastic. They're well within a playable range, but again, it's a competitive shooter, and I know people really like high FPS here, but in this scenario, it's really a beggars can't be choosers type of situation. That said though, this being a completely free-to-play shooter, you can always just download it and give it a go and see how it feels for you. I certainly did have fun playing on here. I can't really lie to you and say that this was a horrible experience, but I can just already feel the situations where not being able to clearly see the enemies is going to cause a lot of frustration, because if enemies are shooting at you at a distance, it can really drag down the whole experience because you're really going to struggle to even see the enemy. So at least in terms of the performance that you can get out of this, you can get it to be at a range that feels nice to play, but visually speaking, it is a chore. But with that said, I hope you found this look at Call of Duty Warzone 2 on the AMD Ryzen 5 5600H running on the Beelink SER5 mini PC to be useful or entertaining. If you're interested in picking up this mini PC because it is capable of playing a lot of games, it's just there are titles like this that are pretty demanding that require a lot of sacrificing to get them at a playable range. But if you're interested in something like that, check out the link down below. It does help to support the channel, and of course channel memberships are enabled now, so for as low as $1 a month, you can actually join as a member and help support the channel. It will be greatly appreciated. It really helps out a lot, and it allows me to get more games and more systems to actually test out. And especially with the 7000 series of APUs coming out, there's going to be a lot of confusion going on because AMD is doing some really ridiculous stuff with mixing in both Vega and RDNA 2 and RDNA 3 based iGPUs. So getting the right info to people by getting actual hardware in front of me and actually testing it out and showing you how it works in games is going to be very, very useful to a lot of people. So if you're interested in that, of course, help support the channel. It is greatly appreciated. I will catch you guys in the next one.